I think that helped the mental piece of that whole mess more than anything.
Yep, for sure, for sure. That's absolutely it. Maybe not in the same vein of like doing something exercise wise every day, but just I have had friends who were in New York City who didn't go outside for a week or two at a time.
Yeah.
And I would, man, every single day, multiple walks outside, multiple times. Like for me, like it's a weird thing, like getting my bare foot on the grass, like just feels like, man, I'm outside, like I'm in a little bit, even if it's outside of my apartment complex or whatever. I'm the weird dude with like his socks off, like it is what it is. And I don't think I could be cooped up inside for so long, not get sun on my face, like whatever it was, like that was like keeping me hanging up by a thread.
Yeah.
It's great.
I feel you on that. You know, we're in the suburbs. So, you know, I have a yard. I actually have a pool in my yard too. And it's been a great summer for that. Just being outside, getting sun made all the difference, because I would go through periods of 3 and 4 days where I hadn't left my house. And I'm like, oh, I can't do this. This is not good. This is feeding into the icky feelings. It's just not healthy.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Just glad that we're a little bit turning the corner, and obviously fingers crossed that it's headed in the right direction, you know?
Amen. Please.
Yeah. So in terms of first thing I wanted to talk about with you today, we had a little talk offline beforehand about, you know, when somebody, either they come to you in a DM or it's just a figurative person decides, hey, I'm looking to change my physique. I want to either lose fat or build muscle. Where are they putting their eggs first, and versus where should they be putting their eggs in terms of like allocation of effort? Like we all have a finite amount of effort that we can put towards things. And, you know, generally speaking, it's probably good if the things that you're putting your effort towards have good ROIs in terms of results. And I just feel like, and I'm sure you can agree, and I'd like you to touch upon, you know, where do people go wrong in terms of, or where potentially do people go wrong when it's time to make a decision about how to improve my health, or in this context, fat loss? Where are people putting their efforts, and where kind of should they be putting their efforts?
You know, and I think that's a great question. I think sometimes people, when they want to start, they get overwhelmed by all the things that they hear and the things that they probably feel like they should change. And then a lot of times they do nothing as a result. And the other part of that is I see when people do start, they focus on what I call the driver of the fat loss. I mean, the passenger of the fat loss car, which is training. They focus on training, which is great to be active and start walking or doing whatever. Absolutely. But they completely ignore anything going on with the most important factor, which is nutrition, because it's the least fun to have to worry about. So I tell people this, I give them 1 or 2 things to do. And the first thing, if you want to do a nutrition-based thing, is literally write down on a piece of paper everything you put in your mouth every day. You don't have to weigh it or measure it or, you know, track it, or just, I had a bite of a sandwich. I had a handful of this. I had a latte. You know, just make a list. And literally I'd put it on a pad of paper. Forget apps, forget all that stuff. Just write it. Get back to a pencil and a paper. That's the old get off my lawn old person speaking here. But I do feel like when you write it, there's a little bit more of an investment when you actually handwrite it down. And then what happens is you start seeing exactly what you're putting in your mouth every day. And that alone starts to bring around change. You start maybe having second thoughts about putting whatever in your mouth. You'll just bypass that handful of almonds. And then you're going to start seeing things slightly move. And it's like, that's where it begins. You have to be aware, you know, that would be the nutrition thing I tell people to start with. The training thing I tell people to start with, look, walk, for God's sakes, everyone can do that. Someone asked me on my Instagram the other night why I recommended walking and not Peloton. And I'm like, I thought that was kind of a weird question.
Does everyone have a Peloton?
I recommended walking because everyone can do it. Not everyone has the money to get a Peloton.
Totally.
Yeah. So, I mean, even if it's like 5 minutes a day, go out, because chances are that 5 minutes is going to turn into more, especially if you get a podcast. Like I like to listen to your podcast. I like to listen to podcasts when I walk. So sometimes that 5 turns into 10, 15, 20, whatever. You will find yourself increasing time there. I just like those 2 places to start, you know, because I think people think they have to do it all, and you really don't, you know?
Yeah.
Just start there.
The word you said was awareness. And I think that there's like, everybody wants to, in my coaching, we have like a little bit of a step-by-step process that whether or not the client is aware of, that we're moving through different points of emphasis. And the first one is awareness. before quantification. Everybody wants to quantify. Everybody wants to count something. Everyone wants to track something. It's like,
Yeah.
man, let's just get aware of what your habits currently are. And I know you know this, how much good actually comes from just being aware. Like, don't count a calorie. Like you said, it's like, oh, I have to write this thing down. Maybe I don't want it right now, actually. Like, maybe I'm just
Yeah.
adding some awareness, some like quote unquote mindfulness behind some of the actions I'm taking. And I think that is such an overlooked thing when a client shows up to a coach. It's like, give me the numbers. Like, what am I doing? How many reps, how many sets, how many calories? And it's like, whoa, like,
Yeah.
how about
Oh,
you just
slow
write
down.
down on just write down on a piece of
Yeah.
paper what you've been eating. Let's do that for
Yeah.
2 weeks and see how
Yeah.
your habits already are going to get better. So I love that.
Yeah. And I think, I think sometimes people feel like that's not enough. Like, I should be doing more. And I try to tell people this: more is not better. Better is better. So do this really well. And then let's move to the next thing. And we can choose what the next thing is, but let's move to the next thing. And, exercise wise, maybe you go from walking and now you're going to add 3 sets of squats in your house every day or something like that, or push-ups or whatever it is. And then on the nutrition side, maybe you're going to focus now on, okay, every time I eat, I want to get some lean protein in my meal, something. You pick something else to work on. And I think as a society, we want everything to move. We want everything to go, 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 go. Instant gratification, blah, blah, blah. So people, I think, sometimes are thinking, what's that going to do? That's kind of wasting my time. Let's go, and no, it kind of is not wasting your time. It's starting to build it's laying your foundation is what it's doing.
I find that, and correct me if, or touch on this if this is something you feel as a coach. I feel like oftentimes the point at which people will reach out to a coach for a serious inquiry of like, I'd like to get coaching, I'd like your help. They're often in a highly motivated place, but that motivation isn't from like I really want to do things right. It's a motivation that's like from a little bit of like a rock bottom feeling, where that motivation is usually driven by like self-loathing, self-hate, I've failed. And while motivation can be a really great thing, when you have so much of it and then you come back with a piece of advice like, hey, let's walk twice a day and just write down what you eat, it's almost like not feeding their need to do it. And if it's because they're finding you in this like rock bottom or in a place of high motivation, that they want that big task. They want to capitalize on their motivation. And my guess is, you being a good coach, like you point that out to them, say, hey, I know you're super motivated, but let's channel that motivation into something long-term that's going to work. And let's not throw you in with the wolves and be like, somebody's like, hey, give me the meal plan. Like, instead of you being like, yeah, great, here's the meal plan, it's like, let's slow down. Let's talk about some basic habits. And I find myself talking people down from what they want to do towards what they probably should do, more than I find myself like pushing people into more.
I mean, it's exciting, I think, to start, and I love that excitement. But I also find that to keep up that level of motivation, or whatever you want to call it, is impossible. That's not going to happen. And so I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they actually have gone too far, maybe over to the positive, oh, I'm ready to go, rah, rah side, because you're not going to keep that up, so maybe, try to dial that back. I will say that I do, I do change it from person to person. I mean, everyone's different. So someone may be able to handle something else too. It's not like a blanket for everybody, but I guess the point is to start laying foundations that they build upon, whatever they are, and then pursue other things as you go. And I think that's the whole long-term thing. And that's sometimes where people get a little antsy, because this isn't going to happen overnight, and it is going to take practice, and you are going to screw up, and then you're going to get back up and do it again. And, I mean, it's one of those things. And I think people sometimes feel like they're wasting their time, like they're not moving fast enough. I call it the case of the should be's. Like, I should be losing weight faster. I should be lifting weight. I should be. And that's this weight that we put on our shoulders. And if you can get rid of that weight by saying, you know what, it doesn't matter how long it takes. Once you can embrace that, I truly think that is the thing that changed my life. When I first started working with Jordan, and that concept sunk in with me, that I think is the one thing that changed my life, is I got rid of timelines in my head and I embraced it. And once I did that, oh my God, the pressure was off, So every time I screwed up, it wasn't a big deal. It didn't matter. I just keep going or whatever. I think that's a life changer. That's one of the big life changers I think there is for people. It's a hard one, but it's a good one.
first of all, I love the should be's. I think that's excellent. I love that. What do you think are some of the external factors that drive those should be's? Like they're just made up scenarios of where people should be or should be feeling or should be looking. Like what are some of those external factors that might be driving those?
Social media is a great one because my God, you look everywhere and this person looks this way, or this person, this person can eat whatever they want. And, what you don't see is what they're doing behind the scenes to be able to eat that way. Or you don't see what that fitness model did to look the way that she did. And maybe how miserable she actually is because her life is now surrounded like that. So I think social media is probably the biggest influence for people, in just the whole, this makes me sound really old, because the whole internet thing, everything is quick. You have the answer to everything in a matter of seconds, probably. I didn't have that growing up. I had no idea, this didn't exist. So I didn't grow up with this. And I think generations that are growing up with this, I think we find now that those people are very impatient in a general sense. And I saw it with my own son, even growing up, when he couldn't problem solve something, he would get very frustrated. He couldn't find the answer, I think that's just leads to all of, I need to be doing this faster. You have all these ads out there that tell you could lose weight and, lose 20. I saw something, lose 20 pounds in some, a couple days, or a pound of fat a day. Some product was lose a pound of fat a day. What?
For most people,
that gets in.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that gets in people's heads, right?
Yeah,
I mean, people buy into that. It's crazy.
How many times does someone DM you saying, I lost this amount of weight in this much time. Why is it going so slow? And then you'll break down the average, like, hey, I lost only 4 pounds in 8 weeks. Like, why is it going so slow? And you're like, hey, like half pound a week. Is that fast or slow? They're like, really slow. And you're like, well, says who? And you're like, I don't know. I just made it up. Like, you don't actually know where you're coming up with these reference points for where things should be. You don't even know. Most people aren't familiar with the most likely, for most people, proper rates of fat loss and weight loss. And they just, like you said, are pulling numbers from marketing ads and Instagram. And Susan from accounting went keto. And then we're not looking at this from a rational standpoint. We're referring to things that just like aren't within the ballpark of like where people should be. Yeah.
I think my generation, I thought for a long time, 2 pounds a week was great. It was not fast. It was not slow. I remember someone labeling 2 pounds a week as, I don't even know, they might have used the word sustainable, but, and so I get that a lot from middle-aged women who come and say, well, I thought 2 pounds a week. They set, and here's what they do. They set MyFitnessPal so they can lose 2 pounds a week, because they think in their head that I can keep up with that. And they find out very quickly, oh no, you can't, because MyFitnessPal has now dropped your calories to some ridiculous amount that they can't keep up with. I mean, they can't sustain it. And so then they're constantly getting off track, constantly getting back on, hop off, hop on, all the time, spinning their wheels. And then they just say, screw it. And then when you tell them, well, I would like for you to eat more, they're like, I can't lose weight eating 1,200 calories. Why are you going to have me eat more? And I try to explain to them, you're not eating at 1,200 calories because you can't stay consistent with it. And so I guess people don't understand the weekend that you decide, screw it, because I can't stay on track. In your head, you're thinking, I didn't eat that much. But in reality, you ate a lot, and you start over again on Monday. And the 1,200 part is what you remember. You remember how hard it is, how miserable you are. You don't remember the weekend that you didn't eat that much, and that's the pattern. That's what happens with all those 1,200, 1,100 people. They only remember the bad part because we're human. That happens. And so when you tell them to eat more, they're like, but I have to explain that to them. And I have to say, you have to do it. You have to trust this. Or if you keep coming in under your calories, I get that a lot too. Oh, I'm not hungry. Like every day, you're not hungry enough to eat all your calories. No, that's bullshit. That's not what's happening. You're afraid to eat more. I call them on it and they don't disagree. I mean, they agree. It is a fear. It is a fear. They come in under on purpose because they don't trust it yet, so you have to kind of coax them through that. It's fascinating. And I get it. I get it. And part of that is because of what they've been hearing, or they listen to this person or this product or that product. It's all of that combined.
Yeah, so if you have somebody who's come to you and said, oh, I tried losing weight at 1200 and it didn't work. Like, yes, it didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't not work because 1200 was too much. It didn't work because it won't work because you actually weren't eating 1200, because you can't actually stick to 1200. Like if you ask somebody, hey, what have you done in the past? They're like, I did 1200 calories and it didn't work. You're goddamn right. It didn't work because you didn't actually stick to it, because it's a fucking super low amount of calories. Like, and back to what you said, like trying to lose 2 pounds a week. Like, let's be clear here. 2 pounds a week equates to something roughly like 1,000 calorie deficit per day. Man, 1,000 calories less than you need per day. And a lot of times the person who's doing this is also combining it with doing more exercise than they've ever done. So now you're even in bigger deficit. And man, who the fuck has ever not pressed the MyFitnessPal option to lose as fast as possible? Like, what is that question even there for? What am I going to click? No, I want to lose 1/4 pound a week. Like, everybody's going to click this. And I'm not mad at MyFitnSpal. Like, sorry, like I'm not angry at them, but like, man, that question really fucks a lot of people over. Like, nobody's picking anything but the fastest rate.
Of course, because we're human, you know, and we want this to be temporary and done, you know, and that brings me to people who say, well, I always go back to X diet because it works for me. Well, okay, let's talk about that. So it always works for you. Why did you leave? You never would have left if it always works for you, right? I find that one fascinating. But yeah, and I'll be honest with you, with regarding to that option of MyFitnessPal, that one drives me nuts as much as when it tells you can earn back however many calories. That one drives me ape shit crazy. I can't stand it.
Or if you keep eating this many calories, you'll be this weight in this many weeks. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's why I don't use an app at all, any app.
Yeah.
And people laugh at me. I'm probably the only person on the planet that started with a piece of paper and a pencil. And I actually moved up in the world to a spreadsheet on my computer, because it will do the math for me in a column. So I don't have to add anything. So I don't do it because I want to have control over all of that. I don't want an app telling me how much I should lose. No, I would rather take a calorie deficit, and I'm all about goal weight times 12 to start somewhere in that neighborhood, and then give that time and really be consistent with it, and see how I'm doing, and then make adjustments if I feel like I need to. I don't want an app that doesn't know me, that's just going based on numbers, a mathematical calculation, and say, this is great for everybody. You know, I don't. And it's not about that app or this app or that app. It's just apps in general. Apps are great. If you're an app person, I say use an app because you can scan stuff. I mean, I hear it's really easy in a lot of ways. But don't let it dictate certain things to you. You know, they're not perfect, you know, none of them are. And you can really make really great use out of some of these things, as long as you don't add calories back in and give yourself these calories back because I earned them, or, you know, or have that set you at 1,100 calories because you want to lose a lot of weight really quickly because you'll be back.
Yeah. There's in terms of MyFitnessPal, there's when I'm onboarding a client, there's definitely a portion of like, okay, maybe you've used MyFitnessPal before, maybe you've used any tracking app before, but I have a little mini course, and the mini course is what not to use the app for, like what to ignore about the app. Because if you're using, and this goes for any tool, if you're using MyFitnessPal just to track your food, because like in exchange for the spreadsheet or the pen and paper, I'm just going to log it over here. That's great. Yeah. But if you're using it as a coach, that's kind of where it goes wrong. If you're just using it as a log, great. You want to scan stuff, awesome. And that's, MyFitnessPal is very fat loss oriented. The app is built around wanting you to lose fat, and this great, obviously, is a super great marketing for that. But the more I experiment with some other apps, MyFitnessPal has some really things that other apps don't have. It's just got like a massive database, which can be a double-edged sword sometimes.
Sure.
It has some other utility, just like from a function perspective, that's great. But some of the other apps place, like we're talking about, a little less emphasis on fat loss, and it's like very blatantly like, you set your own calories and your own macros if you want. And the calories, like MyFitnessPal puts it up nice, big and bold at the top. And if you're over, it's red. I mean, I have clients who are like, I'm like, hey, we're going to go to, 2000 calories. And they put it at like 2000. And if they get like 2005, it's like red at the top, and it's like, no, like red is bad. Like
No.
it's very like, it plays on your emotions a ton. And I'm finding that a lot of other apps are like way more relaxed on that front. It's like, hey, use our app to track your food and then do whatever the fuck you want with your calories and your
I
life.
and I love what you said about use it to log as a journal, even whatever,
Mhm.
and not as a coach. That's it. Like that is exactly it. What people are doing. They're allowing MyFitnessPal to be there or whatever app to be their coach and not just as a means to keep everything organized and keep track of what you're doing, you know? Wow, that's a great one.
Yeah, small pivot. I wanted to touch a little bit about just listen, motivation is like one of the most ambiguous words. Like, just say it and you're going to get 10 different definitions. You're going to have 10 people who are like, don't rely on motivation. Motivation is finite. Like, you need discipline, you need grit, and we're going to use different words. Like, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, like, when somebody asks you, hey, Susan, how do I stay motivated? I tend to, go, all in for a couple of weeks, and then, I just lose steam and I'm not excited anymore. And I don't like going to the gym anymore and I'm burnt out. And how do I stay motivated? Like, it's a hard question to answer right away, but like, what are some of the places that your brain goes in terms of how to answer
You,
that question?
the first thing would be, I would say, I'm not motivated all the time either. None of us are. So if you're expecting to be, you've set some unrealistic expectations out of the gate. That's just not going to happen. And you have to be okay with that. Um, if the lack of motivation turns into lack of action and you just end up not doing anything, that's where it's a problem. I mean, if you're working on a goal, if we're talking from a weight loss perspective or whatever, like not being motivated to track your food anymore, not motivated to go to the gym anymore. And the problem is, I think people sit back and just, I'm going to wait until I'm motivated and then I'm going to go. And it's like, well, it's easy to do that when you're motivated, right? I mean, it's easy to do anything when you're motivated to do it. But what's not so easy is to do it when you're not. And so I tell everyone, I'm sorry, but there's no little magic dust I can throw on you and play a song and you're going to be, oh, good. Okay, I'm ready to go now. It's not going to work that way. You have to create it. And that's where people go wrong. They don't understand that you have to create motivation. You don't sit and wait for it. It's not a thing that you find. You don't find it over there. You don't find it from a song or whatever. You have to create it internally. And the only way to do it, the only way I think to do that is you have to take action, especially when you don't want to. So that person who's saying, I'm not motivated to go to the gym right now, the way you're going to get motivated is you push through that and you get your butt to the gym, do whatever you want at the gym, but just go. Because when you're there, things are going to, you're going to kind of get back into your groove. But afterwards, you're going to feel like, holy shit, okay, I get it now. I'm back. I feel great. It's just that cycle. And so instead of waiting, you have to create motivation by taking your action. And when you take action, you see results. And whether that's how you feel, how you look, whatever it is, and then that keeps you motivated. That's what keeps you going, And I think that people just wait for someone to, I'm just not motivated to go. Well, welcome to the club. Welcome. I usually love going to the gym. That's usually not an issue for me, but part of the time during quarantine, motivation to work out and to do stuff was a little tough. That was new for me, but I had to take my own advice, and it works. Is it easy? Absolutely not. No, it's not. But to sit back and wait for someone to motivate you to go, honey, you're going to wait forever because it doesn't work that way, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of times it's not the answer people want to hear. They want a thing to do. They want a trick, a tip.
A
What
song.
I hate the tip. What's a tip? The tip is do it.
Hell yeah.
I mean, that's the tip. I I don't know. I had someone tell me the other day, I really like that you're no fuss, no muss. And that's a double-edged sword for me because I don't sugarcoat. I don't, because I think that's doing people a disservice. I am a counselor by trait, so I do know how to say things without slapping somebody across the
Sure.
face. But I mean, it's it's one of those things where if you're not motivated, the thing you have to do is do that thing, whatever it is that you don't want to do right now. Do it. Like I've had DMs where I say, get up right now, go for a 5-minute walk, and then text me back, and they do. It's like, oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Do you see the
There's
same?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's the most motivating thing is building self-efficacy, and the thing that best builds self-efficacy is realizing that when those times come where you're not motivated, that you can still do it. And the only way to realize that you can still do it is to freaking start by just doing it. And
Yeah.
the more reps that you get of like, oh, I'm not feeling motivated, but I did it anyway. Oh, last week I wasn't feeling motivated, but I did it anyway. You start to build up these like reps. It's like you're ticking off a box, and next time you're not motivated, you're like, look at all this evidence I have where I just go anyway and I just do it. And there's a quote that floats around. Just my favorite quote ever. And I don't know if it's like something masochistic or I just get pumped up when I hear it. And it's like, there's something inherently motivating about knowing you won't always be motivated. It's like all of a sudden the expectation of I should be motivated and all the times that I go to the gym are going to be due to motivation. Like there's something exciting about realizing, oh, I'm not always going to be motivated. And something that makes me motivated when I hear that is it's something I found resonates with people a ton. And it's obviously everything you've said just kind of packed.
Yeah. I mean, I take that back to the should be's. That's almost like a little bit of pressure off of you. You don't have to be motivated. You don't expect to be motivated all the time. If you expect that, you're putting a ton of pressure on yourself. I mean, no one will ever be able to live up to that. Once you realize you're not always going to be motivated, cool. Okay, let me get that off my shoulders. And now it's going to be times where I really don't feel like doing stuff, but I know I'm going to have to do it. And that's okay. That's normal. It's okay to not be motivated all the time.
Do you think that lowering the threshold or the bar of what is required to decide like a little win, like smaller victories, and like breaking down this like big scary monster into like you said, somebody DMs me, how do I stay motivated? I don't know what to do. It's like, go out for a 5-minute walk. So do you think that maybe lowering the bar in terms of what you classify as a win is a really good way to kind of fuel some momentum?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even consider it necessarily lowering a bar. I mean, I think wherever someone is, that's, if they're not getting off the couch at all, yeah, a 5-minute walk is like a huge win.
Well, it's their expectation. So
Yeah,
their bar is here, and you want to help them lower their own bar,
Right. Right. Absolutely. Because I'm sure their bar is, I need to go to the gym and spend an hour and I need to lift this and I need to, no, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe what you should do is just move, get outside, get some air, put something on that you like to listen to, whatever, and go for a walk. That's going to be me today. I'm going to do maybe part of a workout and then the rest of it, I'm just going to walk. Because my day is kind of crazy. We've got kitchen reno and oh my God, my life. I saw
on your story. Yeah.
Oh my God, my life. So, but and that's okay. Like it's not, I don't feel pressure. No, I have to work out, and I have to love it.
Right.
No.
Right.
Thank God.
I feel like there's something that there's like that. Man, I'm about to open Pandora's box here, but I feel like there's a bit of like that all or nothing mindset that comes into play with this where, man, I could talk about the all or nothing mindset all day, but I feel like there's just this black and white. It's very binary. It's either I do it all the way or I don't do it at all. And there's no recognition of the middle ground. And what you just said, and I want you to kind of touch on the all or nothing in a second, was like, you lowered your own bar. You were like, hey, like we got crazy kitchen stuff going on. In an ideal world, I would have been up here with my beautiful workout all planned with nice 2 to 3 minute rest and would have been great. But man, I'm going to do half of it and I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to bring down the threshold of what I'm going to classify as a win for today. And it's going to not be this perfect ideal setting. It's going to be me taking my life. And instead of, smashing my workout in there, it's going to be molding them together in a way that doesn't make me crazy, allows me to stay consistent.
And I used to be that person. If we would rewind the clock, maybe even as recent as 4 years ago, I would have forced it because I was supposed to. That's what I was supposed to do. And if I didn't do that all the way, like I'm supposed to, then it was somehow not good enough or not enough, less than. And that mindset shift is significant and it's hard. And it was one that took me years to kind of get comfortable where I will create what I can do today. And it's going to be what it is. I'm not going to get to have time to go to the gym today. Cool. Okay. I'm going to stay here. I have a couple things I want to touch on here. And then I really want to go out and walk. I used to hate to walk, by the way. I really want to put that out there. I hated to walk because it wasn't enough. it wasn't hard enough. It wasn't intense enough. It wasn't, when I walked, I had to walk,
Yeah. It wasn't
you know,
exercise.
no, to
Yeah.
me it was. And so now I view it completely different. And that was a whole journey. I look forward to it, especially in the summer. And I've put out there, I will not be walking like this when it gets cold and dark. I don't love it that much. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
on,
yeah,
I'll wait till the sun comes up.
yeah, yeah,
And if it's 20 degrees, you probably won't catch me outside walking
for sure.
because yeah, I'll walk inside at a mall or something. I would rather do that on something like that. But I had, this was, I've evolved been fairly recently with all of this. So getting comfortable with changing things and not feeling like you have to do it all, or it's not okay, or it's not enough or good enough, or if I can't do it all, then why bother? That was a tough mindset to get out of, because I was an obsessed person with that kind of thing. And it just took time and practice and screwing up. And there were times where I would force the issue and I shouldn't have. Either my health, like I wasn't feeling great. I should have listened to my body, said, nope, it is leg day. I need to go do legs. And I felt like crap after, just things like that. Just took a long time. And there's not one thing that I can say, oh, do this and you'll be good. It's not that either. It is learning and trying and giving yourself the non-negotiable. Okay, this is what I'm going to do today, and stick with it, and realize that you're not going to lose progress because you didn't do your full workout. You're not going to, get fat because you didn't do your full workout. It's all fear driven, I think, from within, that if we don't, oh God, what's going to happen? Because I was that person. I worked out 6-7 days a week before Jordan started coaching me. And he scaled me back to 4 days. And I thought I was going to die. Like, I texted him on a rest day and I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And he's like, rest, And I kept hounding him about it. And he says, okay, I couldn't see him, but I guarantee you, he was rolling his eyes at me and going, okay, Susan, you can go to the gym, get on a stationary bike, but don't let your heart rate get over whatever, some low number. And I'm like, yes, okay, I'm going to go. So I did it. I went to the gym, got on a bike, and I could it was like nothing. It was awful. It took me about 20 minutes. And I said, I can't do this. I'm getting out of here. It's a rest day. And from that moment on, when I had a rest day, I rested. And I've never looked back, because what I found was, just from that scenario, resting allowed my workouts to be better. The next workout was so much better. I made so much more progress going from 6 to 4 days, but that all stemmed from fear. I was afraid if I didn't work out 6 days, I was going to lose progress. If I didn't work out 6 days, I was going to get fat. And the irony is I wasn't making any progress anyway, but I couldn't see that. You can't see through the fear sometimes.
That is so unbelievably well put. I get hounded to do more days per week all the time, way more often than I'm like, somebody will message me or email me, hey, I'm super run down with the training program. People will be like, it's only 4 days. Like, what do I do the other days? And I'll also find when it's time for someone to take a deload, especially somebody who's never deloaded, and it's coming from the same places you were talking about of like fear of rest days. A deload is even a bigger thing. It's 7 rest days. And I always give my clients 3 options. They can either do all their deload workouts, which means going to the gym the same amount of days, doing the same workout, 1 or 2 sets, really low intensity. They can do that if they want. And that looks like 4 or 5 days going to the gym. Or they can do 2 days and then take the rest of the week off. Or they can just take an entire week off. And physiologically, for anybody listening not familiar, like, there's probably a very small difference between going in and doing your full deload workout versus taking the entire week and just doing literally nothing. Don't pick up a weight. Don't go to the gym. And most people, to my absolute surprise, pick going to the gym and doing their full deload workout. And it blows my mind. It's like, that you're going in there, it's not stimulating. You're not sweating. You're not burning. You're doing nothing. And most people innately, when they've never done it, they're so scared of this idea of like 7 days. I'm just not going to go to the gym. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I turn into a couch potato. And the coolest part is after the first or second deload day, they're like, man, this is not a waste of time. It isn't. It is not a waste of time. But you might feel like, well, I could be going for a walk, or I could be walking my dog, or I could be, you start to realize that doing this kind of like, when it's time to rest, it's time to rest. And when it's time to work out, it's time to work out. And the way you put it was perfectly on a more micro scale of like, my 4 days are better because of my 3 days of working out. And your 4 weeks of working out will be better because of your deload week. So yeah.
That is so true. People have a hard time understanding that, because I get asked all the time, how many days a week do you work out and how long? I mean, people think I'm in the gym for hours and I work out every day. And when I tell them 4 days a week, and you know, my workouts should be an hour, but they're probably a little longer just because I film and I talk too much and all that kind of stuff. But they're surprised. And it's just like, it's about making when you're there effective. You know, you bring intensity to your workout. And that's how I spent 6 months in a muscle building phase. My workouts were brutal during that 6 months because I upped the ante with the intensity I brought to the table, because this was a goal of mine. I wanted to live through this 6 months and see what I could do. And I think that people don't understand, when you allow your body to recover and rest, your next workout is 10 times more effective. And so therefore you're going to make a lot more progress, probably faster in the big picture than you would if you just constantly, and I even say, even if people go, well, what if you alternate body parts? It's the same thing, because don't tell me your shoulders aren't involved on leg day, because I'm sorry, they are. So you're not resting your shoulders when you're back squatting. You know, you're not resting if you're doing dumbbell lunges, right? And you're holding your dumbbells and your shoulders are back here where they should be. Guess what? Your shoulders are working too. So that doesn't hold water with me at all. That doesn't matter. For the longest time, I didn't even walk on a rest day. Literally, I did nothing. I mean, but my normal work, whatever. Now I walk every day. I make a point of walking at some point every day. Rest days, I tend to go a little longer because I just have a little more time. But that's it. That's the only cardio I do. I am not one of those elliptical girls, or, you know, God knows, no.
I think something that's very much clicked, two sentences that kind of put it in perspective for people. It's like you said, I think 4 days a week is just a really, really great balance for like 95% of people. You know, 5% split between people who really need more and people who really need less. And if you're working out 4 days a week and you don't need rest days, you're not working out hard enough. Like, you're just, if you can work out 7 days, what in the fuck are you doing when you're working out? Like, if you are, like you said, if you're back squatting and you're not feeling your previous workouts even a little bit, then I'm not saying you need to be obliteratingly sore. I'm just saying, if you're working out for hard enough, and we can go into what that means another time, but man, you need rest days. And you're not actually growing when you're working out. It's on those rest days where your body's repairing and making adaptations and growing. And if you, theoretically, if you were to work out 7 days a week, like, obviously we'd run into overtraining way before this happened, but you literally just wouldn't grow. You just stop growing. You just never take
Which
any
is what
time
happened
off.
to me. Yeah. I was 6 days a week. That's exactly what happened to me. And I love what you said just now about, if you're working out 4 days a week and you don't need a rest day, there's something going on. You need to bring more intensity to the table.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with that, because I don't think you have to be like, your tongue doesn't have to be on the floor as you're leaving the gym. Okay.
Right.
It's not extremes here, but if you're feeling like you're energized and you're ready to go the next day, you know what? I would look at, are you sticking with that 15-pound dumbbell too long? You know,
Totally right.
You know, maybe you go and this is a whole nother thing that the people get crazy over is, you know, lifting, quote, heavy. What is that? How much weight do I lift? And, you know, the great example of, you've been doing a 15-pound row or whatever, and you're doing 10 reps and you're like, okay, cool. I feel really good. You should be moving up in weight. I tell them to go to the next dumbbell, but, you know, chances are you could probably go a couple, but okay, go to the next one. But people think in their heads, they have to go from the 15 all the way down there to that guy, which has 80 pounds
bottom
on
rack.
it or something.
They got to go down a
Yeah.
rack.
I mean, it's like, no, that's two extremes. You know, there's a lot of gray area in the middle is where you need to keep pushing yourself. And it's pushing yourself out of a comfort zone. And I think a lot for women that contact me, a lot of middle-aged women are who contact me, and they're afraid. I get it. They're afraid. Maybe because they don't know technique. They're not solid with that yet or something like that. But in their head, they're thinking, I can't lift that weight. Well, nobody asked you to lift that weight, but maybe try lifting this one, you know?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And to kind of go on that vein of like, I'd be remiss if I didn't discuss, like, if there was ever a role model out there for, man, just, and I hate to put you in a box because you're definitely an amazing coach and you should be a role model to so many people, but there was ever a role model for like the middle-aged woman who can put on muscle and should lift, and also has come from a place of overdoing it, a place of abundance, a place of, doing exercise out of fear, and, overtraining, maybe under eating out of fear, like, and has pulled back from that and seen the light. It's been spectacular to see. And I kind of want you to touch on your journey a little bit, and then
Mhm.
maybe where you find a lot of, the people the women and men, but particularly the women who are where you were. What are they asking? What are they looking for? And what do you find is often like some low hanging fruit in terms of advice for them who, or maybe just looking for what to do?
Yeah, I think, first of all, thank you so much for that compliment. I appreciate that. I think middle-aged women often feel like when they hit menopause and perimenopause, that age bracket, that they don't have control over it anymore. They assume their metabolism is slowed down. And so we have to kind of, and I did too. I was that person. Um, I had a long thing with my doctor about this. I had to run tests because I was convinced that's why I couldn't lose weight. And of course, everything came back normal. And then I had to start actually looking inside and taking responsibility for what had gone on for 30 years. And I think what happens is we become less active over time, not in a year, but over 20, 30 years. You get married, you have kids, your life changes. You're now grabbing dinner on the fly. You're taking kids to practices. You're not focused like you were on training, and not on nutrition, especially when your family starts to grow. So you've now created the perfect storm for what is coming on in middle age, because your hormones are kind of playing a role too. They're going out of whack. So you add what you're not doing to that, and now here we go. And so everyone thinks, well, it's my hormones, it's my da 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 da, and it's not for almost everybody. And even if it was, and this is something no one wants to hear, but even if it was, that doesn't mean you can't lose fat. It just might mean it's a little bit more challenging for you, especially if there's not a medication you can take or whatever. But it doesn't change the science of fat loss. I mean, it just doesn't. That's there, and it will always be there. So now you have to figure out, what do I have to do for me to be able to lose weight? And that's, I don't think people understand the amount of work that can entail. Is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. I weighed a whole lot more 5 years ago, 6 years ago, probably, than I do right now. So I changed everything in my 50s, not in my 20s or 30s, but in my 50s, surrounded myself with people that helped me significantly. My mindset started to change. Did I screw up? Yes, I screwed up along the way all the time, but I kept after it. And then one of the biggest things for me, when I started losing the weight, I started getting my mind off of how many pounds, because actually I didn't even know. Didn't have a scale at the time, so I had no idea, other than my clothes fit better. I started focusing on the gym. Give me some goals in the gym now. I wanted to get chin-ups. I'd never been able to do that in my whole life. So I told Jordan, that's what I want to focus on. And so my programming focused around that. And I was driven. I really wanted to do that. I wanted to deadlift a certain amount of weight. I mean, that's where I started focusing. And when you start focusing on that, getting strong, all kinds of things happen. I mean, as long as your nutrition is reasonable, obviously. If you're in a deficit, great. If you're even in maintenance, great. Things are going to change. And I think that's the one thing middle-aged women just don't maybe fully believe or understand, that you can still change. My whole little slogan of "it's never too late," I truly believe that. You know, I truly believe that. And so I just like to tell everybody, if you don't know where to start, as we talked about previously, start with your nutrition, write it down. I give them small little tasks to do. I do that over DMs all the time. I said, I want you to do this, 2 or 3 things, and let them come. And I always get back, oh my God, I had no idea, and that's coming from a person who I thought I was doing everything right. I thought, I'm eating healthy. What else do I have to do? Those almonds that I had 3 handfuls of, those are healthy. I didn't think about how many calories were in almonds. They were just healthy, right? So that's a good thing to eat. I went through so many years of thinking that, and they are healthy. But if you're trying to lose weight, 3 handfuls of those are probably not in your best interest. It's, I don't know.
I think it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, was just like a bit more of awareness. And I think
Yeah.
and again, you said it, it's tough to say, but, and no one wants to hear this from me, which is a good thing you're here backing up, is like metabolically speaking, like what's happening to you physiologically is less of what is making that perimenopausal situation more difficult. It's
Yep.
more, listen, it is harder. It is 100% harder, but
100%.
it's mostly harder because of life. Like, where is your life at that time? Like you said, what does your life look like? You're moving a little bit less. Maybe you're getting worse sleep. You're having hot flashes. You're having a little bit more of an emotional
Oh, yeah.
fluctuation that might drive eating more. Like, man, but at the end of the day, like you said, the rules of fat loss don't change. And there is some level of your ability to manually override what's happening. But man, it's definitely going to be harder, but it's not harder metabolically.
I so agree with that. And I tell everybody, because I hear this all the time, it is so hard. And I'm like, absolutely 100% it's so hard right now. But okay, we agree. It's hard. Now what?
Now what? Yep.
Now what are you going to do? Are you just going to sit there and keep telling me it's hard? Then you're going to sit there and spin your wheels. Or are you going to roll up your sleeves, dig in, and beat the shit out of it? And that's what needs to happen. And I think, again, maybe motivation, blah, 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 all those things play a role. But yeah, man, it is hard. There are a lot of external factors that are going to be at play, but the science of fat loss doesn't change. And the big thing is you are still in control. And I think that's something that most people don't think, but you are in control. I didn't have hot flashes, but I had night sweats and all that kind of stuff. And that made it really difficult. I didn't sleep well for a long time, but I still did my workouts. I still started. And at that point I was changing my nutrition. I was still changing my nutrition. I was in that process then. I didn't let that be the excuse or the justification to just say, nah, it's, no, I didn't, I don't have to think about nutrition that much anymore. I don't track. And I think I say that only from the perspective of that can happen to anybody. You can do that. I didn't just do this because I'm some genius. None of that. I did this because I put in the work, and now I can live a life I'm 60 years old now. I can live a life and not have to do some of these things because I took control. I pulled the reins in. I kind of was very proactive with finding a coach. I was proactive with, okay, I want to do the work. He gave me what to do. I followed what to do. I trusted the process. I made mistakes. I screwed up. I kept going. That's the unsexy answer to everything, right? I mean, regardless of your age, that's the unsexy answer.
People don't want to, like, the idea that it's your fault is, and I phrase it that way on purpose because it makes it sound like a negative comment.
Yeah.
But if something is your fault, by definition, it is also in your power to change. And when you realize that it is your fault, that you're here because you're overeating or you're eating more than you're moving or whatever combination of things that are happening, like, shouldn't be disheartening. Although when I say it that way, I do it on purpose to kind of bring up this conversation. It should be empowering. It's like, if something is your fault, well then, damn, you are the only person, because it's your fault, that has the power to change it. And I want, like you said, you took control back, but the first thing is recognizing that's possible. And sometimes it takes a coach to point out, hey, this is the science. You do, in fact, you're not up against some mythical metabolic boogeyman. Like, you do have control here, and recognition can be something a coach could provide. But taking
or your doctor. Like, for me, it was my doctor too, because once she told me everything was fine, I didn't have, and it's interesting. I did not view that as a great answer at the time. I didn't understand how good of an answer that was. Like, how that was great news. I was devastated.
Yeah.
I was devastated because I was convinced that was the issue. And I was devastated because now I knew I had to look inside. And that was hard to do. I mean, that, you thought for so many years that you were doing everything right. And I was a fitness professional too at that time too. And so you're a little humiliated. I mean, there's a lot of emotion with that. But once I pushed that aside, I'm like, yeah. And Jordan helped me with this a lot, realizing I am in control. That changes everything, being proactive now go out and get it,
There's you said something, and I don't want to, because if anybody listens to my podcast regularly, I just did a podcast on my story and a very similar situation of going to a doctor. I had come from a very overtrained, underfed state, and I was, single digit body fat percentage, and I loved the way I looked, and it was everything to me, but I felt like shit. And I went to the doctor because I wanted him to tell me that there was something wrong with me. I wanted him to say, here, you have this, here's this thing, and you'll be great. But and again, I say it in the podcast, I'll say it again, like, I am forever thankful for them telling me that there was nothing wrong with me. And finally, after seeing a couple of doctors, a little bit of a reality check. Hey, dude, stop fucking walking around at 5 or 6, 7% body fat. Like, that's not healthy. There's nothing actually wrong with you except for the fact that you're doing this to yourself. And so you saying that you're very thankful for that answer, it's like, we want there to be something wrong with us. We want it to be this external locus of control. We want it to be outside of our control. But having somebody shake you and be like, hey, it's your fault, and thus you can do something about it. Like, it's a powerful moment, but it hopefully pivots you in the right direction.
It is powerful. It's hard to hear maybe at the beginning, especially if you thought, for sure. Like I remember sitting in the waiting room thinking, okay, test results are going to be this. I'm going to get my meds. Boom. Everything's going to happen. Yay. I had played it all out, but it's a mindset shift. I had to shift now. And that didn't happen overnight. And I always like to use this analogy. It's not like you walk in a room and you flip the light switch on. That's not how things happen. Most anything, it's not okay, I'm good now. No, I had to sit with it. I had to accept it. And then as soon as I started accepting it and letting that sink in, I started taking more action. And the ball started rolling at that point. And it was the life changer. I mean, the doctor that day changed my life because she did not sugarcoat things with me. She goes, Susan, you're just eating too much.
And that's the thing. If somebody comes to you and says, Susan, I'm doing this, I'm not losing weight. And I'm like, okay, even if it's a DM or a real person, whatever. Hey, Jordan, I'm not losing weight. Okay, well, how many calories are you eating? They're like, well, I have no idea. Or how much are you eating? Whatever. Phrase it however you want. It's like, how much are you eating? They're like, I don't know. It's like, well, what the fuck are we talking about? There's, it must be my thyroid. It must be this. Like, it must be the plan in my fasting window or too many carbs, whatever. It's like, how much are you eating? They're like, I don't know. It's like, well, let's start there. Even if it's just writing it down, let's start with the how much. And we can go into like this dichotomous, like it has to be either the how much or we focus on the what. But man, you can do both. Like, you can focus on what you're eating and also quantify it to make sure you're getting your fitness goals. There's just this, it's like, how much are you eating? It's like, I don't know. It's like, well, okay, well, let's start with that. Like, let's is fat loss right there. Yeah. Like,
let's start there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I want to be respectful of your time. We're coming up on an hour. You got to keep me posted. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm good.
Okay. I'm good. I wanted to talk about your, this must've been months and months and months ago, and you had just touched on it before, but your transition into a muscle building phase. Mm-hmm. Man, that's something I grow increasingly passionate about and love doing as a coach. It's like, great, we're going to trim you down. We're going to do calorie deficit, do all that fun stuff. But this is the fun stuff, but it's also the scary stuff. We're way more comfortable in restriction. So I'd love to hear your kind of path from where you started, maybe calorie deficit, figuring things out. But then what was it like at that moment where I know you and Jordan talked about it, where it was like, let's do a surplus. And you're like,
whoa. Well, it's so funny. I had been before I went into the muscle building thing, I was in maintenance for years and so I was on autopilot with maintenance, not tracking. I had maintenance down. So I was approaching it not from a deficit into a surplus, but from holding steady. However, and I wasn't going to track either. I decided I didn't want to track. So I want to see if I can do this without tracking, since I know my maintenance so well. Jordan and I decided, let's just pick a couple days a week where I add some more calories, a couple days a week, instead of trying to say, okay, by the end of the week, I want to be in the plus column, 800 calories. How does that equate a day? Forget that. I didn't want to do that. That was just too many little numbers. So 2 days a week, I started with adding, I made a shake equivalent. I never weighed and measured everything, but my guess is anywhere from 400 to 500 calories in there 2 days a week. Before I started doing that, however, I was just trying to eat more. And I spent about a month and a half saying, you know what, I'm just not hungry. I'm not going to eat it. And Jordan and I talked about this on a podcast, actually. Basically, he was calling bullshit on me. And he was right. I mean, I was bullshitting myself because I didn't want to see the scale go up. And for anybody that has spent most of your life feeling like you're heavy or you're overweight or you want the scale to go down, to go the opposite direction is scary as shit. And that, once I had my come to Jesus meeting with myself and said, no more of this bullshit. And Jordan said, you're going to have to eat when you're not hungry. Okay. And then from that point on, we kind of found things that wouldn't fill me up, whatever and that's where the shake came in, because that was really a good compromise, a good way to do it, because it fills you a little bit and then you're good to go later. So I didn't even allow myself to have that option anymore of I'm too full, and I did eat when I wasn't hungry sometimes. I mean, I did. But I ended up increasing the days from 2 to 3. I think I ended up with 3, maybe even a couple times 4 days a week. I would add those shakes in. And I literally gained a pound a month, which was exactly my goal. And I did it without tracking. And what was interesting, I tracked my weight though.
Yeah.
I stepped on the scale every day, and my weight pattern from month to month looked like anybody else's, zigzag, spikes, dips, but it would just start going up. So literally end of month 1 weigh in, a pound up, boom, I was there. And sometimes it would be really interesting. The weight wouldn't move at all until the last week of a month or something like that. And then it would pop up. I mean, I just got into a rhythm with it, I definitely got muscle gains for sure. I didn't do a great job with taking before pictures. I should have been better with that. And I recommend anybody, please, please, please do it and take them periodically, the same pose, the same everything. I just happened to find shots before I started of me like preparing for a deadlift or whatever. I could see how much my glutes grew. And for all of you that want to grow glutes, great example of how much you have to put in and eat to fuel that. Because so many people want to grow glutes and they won't eat. They'll eat their thousands of calories and think that they're going to grow their glutes that way. But for the first time in my life, I had glutes. And I got a lot of upper body definition, but I also got fat. I also put on fat too. My body fat was up. I don't go by body fat percentage. I have no idea what my body fat percentage ever was or what it was after that. I just know by how I look, I just have a little bit of fat on me. I was okay with that. The most fascinating part of this journey is how okay I am with how I look now versus how I looked before. I was really lean before. I would almost say skinny. I've never used that word with me in my whole life until I look back and see what I look like then, because I have yet to go into a deficit. I'm not going into a deficit. Why would I do that? I mean, I like where I am. I will say that the scale's gone down from the 6 pounds I gained. I've dropped 2 of them, and not on purpose, just over whatever. And I think I'm settling in at this weight. But it was great. A learning experience. I think everyone should do it. It's not what you think. It's not a feeding frenzy, which I think everyone thinks about, right? You just eat. No, you control what you eat. You're still in control of everything. Did I have a little more wiggle room? Of course. Yeah, I had some wiggle room, and I probably ate some things that I probably wouldn't have eaten as much of prior. But overall, a great experience. The mindset things that were happening were significant. I did a whole YouTube video on that and broke it down into the things that I thought were really tough, the things that surprised me, things like that, because I think people can relate. If you don't want the scale to go up, people want to put on muscle but no fat, and it's like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You have to put on some fat, right?
Yeah. I'll definitely link that up in the description. I think there's a lot of people who resonate with that. This is, I mean, people will DM you and say, like you said, I really want to grow my glutes. I'm like, okay, let's do some like hinges a couple times a week and enough protein and, probably calorie surplus. They're like, no, 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 I don't want to gain weight. I just want
Yeah.
bigger glutes. I'm like, well, that like that muscle, like just it weighs something, right? Like it's not, doesn't come from the fat and transform into it literally weighs something. So that I always find funny. It's like you want a part of your body to grow, but you also don't want to weigh any more than you do. I mean, it's just, it's not possible. It's an oxymoron.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also find that, this is the heaviest I've ever been in my entire life, not my entire life, but I've been peaked really heavy and then cut really extreme. And now I've found, like, in my new life, my second shot at this fitness thing, like the top end of where I've ever been. And I'm not nearly as lean, period. Like I've been much leaner. Like you said, you've probably been leaner, but man, and you said, I'm okay with the way I look, and I was okay with a couple more pounds, but and maybe you can tell me if this is how you're feeling, but I'm okay with the way I look, not as lean, because of how much better life is. Like like if you put two pictures, I'm like, yes, this picture, that guy like objectively looks leaner, looks better naked, whatever you want to say. But like my life in this picture, encompassing, yes, okay, how I look is one component of that, but my life is so much better. A little bit more food, more flexibility, more time with friends, less food anxiety, less food focus. Man, if all I have to gain is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pounds, whatever it is for different people, to get that, man, that is a trade-off I'm willing to make. My life is way better here than it was, 10 pounds leaner and shredded and cool for an Instagram pic. But man, life fucking sucked.
I couldn't say it any better. I totally agree with you 100%. I think I was in a good place food-wise, I thought, for a long time, hanging in maintenance, but I'm in an even better place now. I mean, food is not like on my brain all the time. And I just feel better. I feel like I have more energy most of the time. And, two interesting things happened through this. One, during the process, I was at the gym one day and a guy, one of those gym friends you don't know the name of, but you see all the time, came up to me and was asking me, he first started out by saying, so I know, are you doing something different? Because I've seen you look thinner before. And when he said that, well, it's a good ending though. When he said that, I got a gut punch, right?
Yeah,
that was the
right.
one thing.
So did I.
Holy shit. Yeah. Oh my God, what am I doing? And this was all in a nanosecond, because he kept talking. He goes, but you're doing something different because I like how you look right now. And, but that nanosecond, I got the gut punch, and literally a million things went through my head, and it's like time stopped. And when I heard what he actually said, I kind of took this deep breath, and I was telling what I was doing. He's going, because I think you look better now than you did before. And he goes, and I'm sorry if he was wanting to make sure he wasn't being inappropriate or anything.
Yes,
he was just
objective.
And so that resonated with me a lot. And then the other thing was, after this was all over, I'm 6 pounds heavier than I was. And at the beginning of quarantine, I'm going out, I have a chin-up bar right outside my door. I'm going to do a chin-up. I'm like, shit, why are these so heavy? And Jordan starts laughing at me because you're 6 pounds heavier than you were. And I'm like, So I'm like, okay, you know what? I want to get stronger at chin-ups with my new weight. That's what drove my chin-up goal for quarantine. I did six, just singly 6 a day for a week. And then the next week it was 7 a day, 8 a day the next week. Every week I increased by 1 a day. And I got up to 12 a day. I'd never done 12 in my life, but I did it for an entire week, 12 every day. And then, as I said, I backed off the reps, added the weight. Now I'm adding weight and all that. But it was interesting. Those two things, just that part didn't resonate. Like, yeah, some things were a little harder, but I didn't sit back and go, woe is me. Oh, blah, 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 blah. No, I said, oh, hell no. Because I spent so long trying to get a chin up. I want to feel good with them again, and get strong with them again. So you just put in the work, and it's all good. Now they're strong. I'm 4.5 pounds up. They're good there.
Yep. And that's something I definitely always want to communicate when you get to if you're out there, you're dieting and you have a goal weight, a goal look in mind, man, your goal look is probably not as good as life will be, maybe 5 pounds up from that goal look. And whatever the 5 pounds, 10 pounds equates to in calories, will just one, it's going to make you physiologically feel better. Everyone has this goal weight in mind that's like shredded. It's like immediately that life is probably not physiologically, not just healthy, but probably not
Mm-hmm.
the healthiest, happiest you could be. But if you put next to you, let's say your goal weight is 135, man, if you're 135 and shredded, you'd probably eating, a low amount of calories. Life is probably just net better, 5 more pounds and a couple hundred more calories up. And so I think that
Yep.
like you have this goal weight in mind, that's cool, but you make sure that you're factoring in how you look, but also how you live in order to maintain that. What are the trade-offs at 135? What are the trade-offs at 140? Man, I'll
That's what
take
people,
140.
yeah, that's what people don't get is, okay, they get focused on this goal weight. And that's why, I mean, I have to make sure people understand when I use goal weight for it's for a calculation. You don't ever have to weigh that, it's for a numbers game. But when someone wants to get to 130 and they're at 135 and they keep reducing and reducing calories, and now they're not consistent. And now they're spinning their wheels thinking those last 5 pounds are so hard, blah, blah, blah. Well, your adherence isn't any good because look what you have to do. And then how is your life going to be different 5 pounds less? That's a great question to ask people, because most of the people are going to say it's not. Well, then I challenge people, let's go the other way. Let's put some calories back, just like what you said. Put the calories back in, maybe even hang at maintenance. Let's get some energy back and go knock it out of the park in the gym. And you watch what will happen. Watch what will happen. You will change how you look, which is what most people want anyway. Most people want to lose fat, not weight. They don't care about the number until they do. But I mean, it's more about they want to look. They want to look, that word toned or lean and defined or all those words, and if they look the way they want to look at a weight that they thought was going to be too, at that point, they don't care because they see it. But the problem is they don't see it, and they want to drive, they think they will see it miraculously 5 pounds less, and then they have to maintain it. And good luck with that, a lot of times. And so if you reverse course, put some calories back in, hang out at maintenance, go crush it in the gym, bring up your intensity, just take a seat and see what happens with that, only good things.
Totally agree. The last question I want to bounce off you before I let you go is there's anytime we have like a field, an industry, or just like right now, like fitness, whatever you would call that, the fitness industry, there's people on polar ends of certain arguments, and one is often created by the other. So you have people on one end who are like, calories don't matter at all.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, it's just, and then insert whatever boogeyman you want. But then there's another polar opposite. And I think you and I and people like Jordan and stuff would be more on this end, but also not to this extreme of a degree. But what would you say to somebody who says, hey, you're messaging about calorie deficit, it's calories, it's how much you're eating, like it's too simplistic? Like what do you think you'd say to that when somebody who claims kind of, man, this emphasis on calories is overly simplistic?
Overly simplistic, like there's other things at play?
Sure.
Then just, I'm just, no, there's not. I mean, there's all kinds of research to back that up. I mean, it's science. And I think people want it to be complicated because then they can grab these people in, right? And say, hey, I got the product for you. I've got the answers. It's very complicated. It's not complicated. There are people out there, the Twinkie diet, that dude that ate Twinkies and he lost weight. He probably felt like shit. And I tell everybody, you're going to feel awful if you do something stupid like that. But it's just to point that you can just eat less and you'll lose weight. Jordan had the Big Mac every day for 30 days, but he controlled what he ate the rest of the time to make it work. And it's just another example of, yeah, it is about calories, and it is that simple. And, if you want to lose weight, do you have to do percentages? Like when people start doing percentages with macros, my head explodes.
I can tell.
Because I don't do percent. I'm not good at that, at math. So, and the thing, people are like, well, 30% of this and 40, I don't even know what that is. Just stop. Calories, I'm a big proponent of tracking your protein just because, especially as you get older, you can reverse bone density issues, muscle, all that stuff. And also obviously keeps you feeling full, all that kind of good stuff. So protein is kind of, we got the king and protein may be the queen, the assistant, whatever. After that, whatever calories you got left, make them to your preference, because I don't have to count carbs. No, they're calories too. I mean, right? Mind blown.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm so about keeping it simple. And there's so many people out there that want to complicate it, and it's just not that way. And people are just relieved when they can just keep the tracking down to just a couple things, and that's it. And it works. It works.
Yep. That's awesome. I think you said it. I think it is, if somebody says that, it is that simple. That doesn't mean it's easy, but it
Correct.
is that simple. And
yeah.
And it goes back to our original question of like, okay, you want to lose fat. Where am I putting my eggs? It's like calories. Like, this is where you should put all of your effort, and everything else is not useless, but probably a distraction.
Yeah.
I don't know if you follow James Smith, but
Yes.
I don't know if it's in his book or it's like in some of his content. He said that there's you, and then there's the truth, calorie deficit. And in the middle here is the fitness industry trying to like hold the wool over your eyes so you don't see it. And it's like everything out there that isn't at least recognizing that calories are at the base of the pyramid, the height of the hierarchy. At least there's something out there that's not recognizing that. It's like, oh, you have to drink the shake, or you have to like this macro split. It's an attempt to hide you or distract you from that truth. So I love that answer. That's very great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? And I'm going to throw all of your social media and everything in the description of the episode.
Sure. I'm on Instagram a lot. Everything is Susan Niebergall Fitness, and it's NIE, and it's not Susanne and Bergall, because people, that's the funniest phenomenon. People
don't know where the first time.
Did you really?
First time I ever saw it, I thought it was Susanne. Yep.
Because people don't know, I guess, where the first name ends and the second name begins.
What nationality is Niebergall?
German.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, Niebergall's German. So Susan Niebergall Fitness on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, Facebook. My YouTube channel, I'm doing a lot of stuff over on YouTube as well. I have a podcast, the Strong and Lean at Any Age podcast, which I'm going to you and I can talk about coming on. I would love for my audience to hear you too. That would be amazing.
Be awesome.
And I kind of played with TikTok, I don't know. I've done informative stuff on TikTok that I can do. I'm never going to do the other whatever.
You're not stuff. TikTok dancing. I get it.
Yeah, no, no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
There's only so much you can do. I mean,
and that is the truth. There's only so much time in the day to devote to all of this. So yeah.
For sure. All right. Yeah. So that's the end of the episode, guys. And if you want to find Susan, I recommend it. She's like by far one of my favorite people on social media. You should absolutely give her a follow and just binge all of her content, and you won't be disappointed. All right, guys. I will see you guys in the next episode. Awesome. Thanks, Susan. You're the best.
Thank you. Awesome. That was amazing.
That was great.